Stop it! Had enough? Scum! Stop it! Put them down! I'll never stop fighting! I'll never give it.
It's always surprising how this year can have so many consistently strong releases back to back. A Space for the Unbound, Dead Space Remake, Hi-Fi Rush. There are many quality games to enjoy right now, and many more are en route. So to see a game, even one as highly anticipated as Respawn's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, dropped smack dab in this release schedule with heavyweights like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on the way, is cathartic in some ways. Not only is it an incredible experience despite some baffling technical issues and a worthy follow-up to Jedi Fallen Order, but it's just an all-around fun game. Confession time. The first game wasn't quite for me. I didn't vibe with Cal Kestis or the combat at first. Eventually, the world design and Metroid-style approach to exploration stood out, and the strong storytelling and characterization helped anchor the entire experience in ways I wasn't expecting. It was fun, but felt raw in many places, like a concept that had yet to live up to its full potential. Star Wars Jedi Survivor does end in an immaculate fashion. It builds upon its lightsaber combat with some new techniques, stances, and force abilities that provide a strong degree of freedom. Its locations feel like fully realized worlds with their own cultures and ecosystems, while staying true to the Star Wars identity. Its story offers higher stakes and more nuanced shades as Cal wrestles with the new emotional conflicts and revelations. It seamlessly integrates new mechanics and activities that are enjoyable and rewarding into its already compelling exploration. Having it all wrapped up in a package brimming with so much attention to detail and visual splendor is simply incredible. Set 5 years after the end of Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor sees Cal Kestis battling against the Galactic Empire. It's not something he's excelling at either. Even with small victories, the Empire grows ever stronger. The emotional turmoil, coupled with survivor's guilt and wanting to carry on the fight for the Order, also weighs on him to an unimaginable degree. The opening level takes place on the capital of the Galactic Empire, and next to Bracca in Fallen Order, which wraps a tutorial and cinematic mission into an even more compelling opener. It definitely sets the tone for the adventure to come. I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll eventually rendezvous with Grease, Cere, and Merrin. Other new characters like Z, an ancient droid, and Monk contribute strongly in unique ways while being fun to just hang around with. There are also plenty of new threats, including Ravis and his Bedlam Raiders and a mysterious new Jedi. However, the storytelling is enthralling and consistently on point. The various emotions in Cal's reunion with Grease, or his natural interactions with Bode, are done well. While some conversations can get a bit wordy, I'm never tired of interacting with new characters, learning their stories and what brought them to their corner of the galaxy. That uppity patron in the cantina, the stable hand who is seemingly more than she's letting on, Toa way in over her head but still trying to do her best, each character feels fully realized. Of course, Cal's interactions with BD-1 are similarly charming, whether it's observation based on scans or various shenanigans the two get up to, because they've been together for this long and support each other. The camaraderie feels much more emotional, especially as BD-1 witnesses Cal's stress and sadness firsthand. Presentation-wise, Jedi Survivor is amazing. Not flawless, but we'll get to that. The facial animations, voice acting, and cutscenes are splendid, while the orchestral soundtrack captures a range of emotions, from taut action to manic tension. Visually, there is plenty to love, like the abundant light sources or the detailed textures and gorgeous effects. I can't say enough about the skyboxes, the environmental details, and sheer draw distance, but the little details are also worth noting. Cal's lightsaber ignites grass as he cuts through it, and mud will stick to his clothes briefly. Of course, attack and enemy animations are also nearly perfect. Like Jedi Fallen Order, you'll traverse across different locations, returning to some and discovering others for the first time. While the first game offered various secrets and hidden areas to explore, Jedi Survivor absolutely dwarfs it in scale and scope. An abandoned building guarded by a shielded turret, a cave with separatist droids housing some priorite, traded in Rambler's Reach for items like new cosmetics, various chests housing parts to customize BD-1 and Cal's lightsaber, not to mention new clothes and hairstyles. The list goes on. As you progress, new rumors become available, Whether it's prospectors disappearing while hunting for priorite, or a DJ and their droid from the core systems wanting to hear the sounds of nature, you can ignore them but investigate their general vicinity to know more, and you could recruit new characters, bringing even more functions and vendors to the town. Further exploration also yields access to Jedi chambers, large, ancient puzzle rooms that test your mettle. After the first, the rest are optional, but you'll want to undertake them for the new perks, which provide benefits like an increased block meter or replacing enemies with tougher ones to revamp encounters. You start with 3 perk slots, but certain perks can take up more than one slot. However, certain collectibles can be exchanged for more slots and other perks at vendors. There are also Force tiers, challenges set in a void-like realm which range from platforming to combat. The first involved taking on an Inquisitor, 2 B2 droids, 2 Bedlam Raiders, and some B1 droids using only the single blade stance. It looked easy enough and quickly became a frantic battle for survival, necessitating multiple tries. Completing these awards skill points on top of sharpening your skills. Aside from these, you can also pursue side activities like gardening, collecting fish for the cantina, and hunting down bounties. Navigating these massive new locations takes some time, but thankfully you have mounts that can assist you. They also open up new platforming solutions since jumping off of the Neko can grant more height. You'll also encounter various winged creatures to hang and glide off of. Fast travel eventually becomes available, making the journey around each location seamless, but it's easy to get lost while wandering around and taking in the sights, perhaps uncovering something you hadn't noticed until now. Along with running around, Cal will also do plenty of platforming, and I can't stress enough how amazing it feels. Chaining wall runs and grapples, timing double jumps, and clearing gaps while searching the environment for solutions and opening up shortcuts feels natural and intuitive. There may still be some jank when jumping on certain parts of the environment, though far less than in the first game. Overall, the level design is perfectly on point, reinforcing an area's natural aspect while presenting interesting challenges and puzzles. The new AI companions also assist in this regard, especially when opening up new avenues for Cal to traverse. You can't have a Jedi game without combat though. Many of the same tenets from Fallen Order still apply. Cal has force push and pull, can block and parry, attacks with his lightsaber, and deflect shots back at enemies. He can also grab explosives and missiles in midair and launch them back at the enemies, which is always satisfying. However, for the most part, you're still hacking and slashing through enemies, trying to break through their block to deal uninterrupted damage while dodging unblockable attacks. Jedi Survivor doesn't significantly revamp these mechanics, as much as providing way more options to play with. You have 5 lightsaber stances, each fitting into different playstyles and providing useful functions. The single-bladed lightsaber is your general all-purpose tool, good for parrying attacks and executing combos, but maybe rely on the double-bladed lightsaber for tackling larger numbers of enemies. The latter is also great at deflecting stormtroopers' heavy weapon fire, though its long animations take getting used to. You also have the dual-bladed stance, which rewards aggression but can automatically parry attacks using the force meter and quickly slash enemies before backstepping. Then there's the blaster stance, where Cal wields a blaster in one hand and a lightsaber in the other. It's one of the stranger options, but introduces some much-needed range, while still being balanced by having limited shots. I didn't unlock the heavy blade stance yet, but just from these options alone, coupled with force powers like Confuse or Heavy Pull, there is so much you can do in the combat. It would all be for naught if you didn't have a worthwhile foe to fight, and to the credit of Jedi Survivor, it introduces several new enemy types to keep things lively. There are Bedlam Raiders, some with jetpacks and electric pulls to pin you down and immediately attack when force pulled, shielded stormtroopers whose shields can be ripped away and then thrown back, heavy droids that fire almost relentlessly and lob missiles, and much more. Even some beasts can be downright brutal, grabbing and pummeling you without mercy. You'll still have plenty of encounters where you outright brutalize foes. It's incredibly satisfying to force pull a stormtrooper and instantly execute them. While the tougher ones can be brute forced, ingenuity is often more rewarding. What do you have in your arsenal? What ability should you pull out at any given time? Just walking into a new fight and thinking about these possible ways to take down opponents makes for a fun time. Besides, you also walk away with less damage taken, though the distance between checkpoints is very forgiving. Those craving more lightsaber-focused battles will find plenty of those, especially with the bosses that crop up. Again, no spoilers, but each boss felt unique yet challenging, adding significant nuances to each fight. Also, a note on companions. Commanding Bode to dropkick an Inquisitor from behind is as hilarious as effective, and I welcome more of that. With so much to love about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, where does it falter? Performance? On PS5, you can enable performance mode and play at 1440p and 60 FPS, or disable it for 4K 30 FPS. There are also options for motion blur, chromatic aberration, and field of view. However, the frame rate can be very hit or miss in performance mode. It will run at a smooth 60 FPS, but often drop to the 50s or even 40s. This can happen in places with massive draw distances and hundreds of objects in the background. However, I also noticed more erratic drops when entering and leaving Dreez's Cantina. The frame rate in cutscenes, which sticks to 30 FPS, even in performance mode, is also erratic depending on the amount of action. If that weren't enough, some screen tearing and pop-ins are noticeable in some places. Playing in 4K 30 FPS does alleviate some of these issues while presenting much more detailed texture quality and lighting, though the pop-in isn't completely absent. Respawn and EA have already confirmed fixes and improvements in its launch day patch, and many more to come later. While I didn't experience any bugs or other glaring issues, you should be aware of the problematic performance before buying. Even with that asterisk, and I can't stress enough how significant it is, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a must-play experience for fans of the first game and Star Wars. It doesn't rewrite the rules so much as massively build upon, improve, and expand on the formula in numerous ways. It offers a human story about home, family, and moving on while presenting a likable cast and memorable locations. Where the series goes from here is anyone's guess. I'm not just excited for what's next, but keen to return and immerse myself in Jedi Survivor's world even further. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.